General Virella of the Velari Dominion stepped onto the charred soil of Earth with precision. Behind her, atmospheric landers darkened the sky. Her armor hissed softly, laced with neural mesh, her presence unmistakable. The Dominion had broken civilizations older than this planet's continents. Earth was to be no different. She reviewed the last transmission from High Command, subdue the resistance, enforce integration protocols, extract resources. Mercy was not in the doctrine. She had crushed dozens of species. Empires crumbled under her strategy. Her soldiers, bred for war, awaited her command. But Earth was noisy, not in the sonic sense, but in resistance. Primitive, yes, but unpredictable. Scattered forces harassed Velari scouts with tactics that should not have worked. Humans fought in irrational clusters, refused to retreat, sabotaged their own infrastructure to deny the enemy. It was illogical. In the first week, her forces lost a battle in the Appalachian zones, not due to firepower, but stubbornness. The humans lured Velari into caverns, then detonated ancient mining tunnels. No warning. They buried themselves to kill their enemy. It unsettled her. She authorized orbital strikes on suspected rebel zones. Civilians were among the casualties. Her species would have mourned tactically. But the humans? They grew more determined. Their networks of resistance expanded. One night, Virella stood above a ruin where a city once stood. Charred playgrounds. Melted metal. She watched a child's toys slowly roll in the wind. Meaningless, yet something gnawed at her. She didn't understand it. Later, a captured rebel was brought before her. The human's face was bloodied, but he stood straight. He offered no plea. His name was Thomas Hale. "Do you fear death?" she asked him. "No," he said. "Do you fear failure?" She paused. Few had dared ask her such things. She examined him more closely. "Your tactics waste lives. They gain nothing. Why not surrender and survive?" "And live under chains?" he laughed. "We're not built like that. You are fragile, limited, but not broken. Never that." She ordered him imprisoned for study. No execution. She told herself it was for strategic insight. Thomas was kept in a containment facility. Yet every day he spoke, not of war, but of Earth, music, oceans, humor, loss. She observed through surveillance. He spoke to his guards, and slowly they spoke back. She entered his cell after 10 days. "You waste your breath." "I'm not trying to convince you," he replied. "I'm just being human." "You value words, emotion, don't you?" "No, we evolved past sentiment." "That's a shame." Her mind lingered on that conversation. The war progressed. Cities fell, but cracks appeared. Velari units began showing signs of fatigue. Resistance fighters used psychological tactics, recordings of families, old Earth music, even poetry. Her soldiers, genetically enhanced, began hesitating. She ordered neural recalibrations. But secretly, she began reviewing human art, their history. She watched a black and white film late one night, alone, a war story. She cried, and it enraged her. She visited Thomas again. "Your species is reckless. We love. That's what makes us reckless. You would die for that. Every time." The next day, she received reports of Velari troops surrendering. A unit chose not to fire on a human convoy delivering medicine. When questioned, they said they saw children among them. They acted irrationally. Discipline was faltering. She was summoned by High Command for explanation. "We see contamination in your command vector," said the Supreme Strategist. "The human psyche is infectious," she admitted. "Then incinerate it. Begin planetary sterilization." She gave the order. 2 hours later, the sky lit with Velari weapons. Thomas watched from his cell, silent. She stood beside him. "Your planet will burn. It's the only way to win." "You already lost," he said. "Explain." "You saw what we are. You felt it. Now you can't unsee it. Your soldiers, your mind, they're infected with something you don't understand. Empathy. You'll never win now." She left, furious. Yet she didn't sleep. She wandered ruins alone. She found drawings on walls. Human hands, marked in dust. A message etched in shelter. We are still here. She returned to Thomas. What would you have me do? Stop. Stop killing. Talk to us. Try mercy. You would trust me? No, but you could earn it. The concept was alien. Trust. Earning it. No tactical manual covered such things. She struggled with the thought. Then came the breaking point. A Velari orbital pod misfired, landing in a human survivor camp. Instead of killing them, the soldiers inside dragged injured children to safety. It was against protocol, but no one stopped them. Virella watched the recording. Something inside her fractured. She gave a command. Stand down all assault forces. Recall orbital units. Begin ceasefire negotiations. High Command overrode her authority. A kill order was issued. She was to be replaced. Her own second-in-command, Yekshul, boarded a cruiser to eliminate her. Thomas was evacuated by rebel operatives before her facility fell. She escaped under fire, hunted by her own kind. She fled to a ravaged forest. Wounded, alone, cold, and that's where Thomas found her. He held out a hand. Why? She asked. Because I'm still human. And maybe you're becoming something close. She took his hand, not as a general, but as something she didn't yet have a name for. The fire burned behind them, lighting up the ruined trees with orange fingers of smoke. Virella stumbled beside Thomas, clutching a wound in her side. Her once pristine armor was cracked. A Velari beacon blinked on her gauntlet, warning her, "You are now classified as rogue." Thomas pulled her behind a half-buried vehicle. "They're tracking us," he said. "We need to keep moving." "You shouldn't have come back for me," she growled through gritted teeth. "And leave you to die alone," he said, tearing a strip from his shirt to bind her wound. "Yeah, not really my style." Virella watched him work. No armor, no enhancements, no reason to help her. Yet he did, again and again. They moved under cover of dark, slipping through ash-covered roads. Earth was a graveyard now. Barren cities, broken satellites falling from the sky, shattered monuments. But in the silence, life still stirred. They came upon a human survivor enclave nestled in an abandoned subway system. Armed guards raised rifles until Thomas shouted, "She's with me? She's not here to fight." They were let in, barely. Inside, Virella saw things she had never allowed herself to see before. Children drawing on walls. A woman singing softly despite hunger. A one-legged man making prosthetics from scrap. They had nothing, and still they gave. She sat quietly away from the others. Thomas joined her with a cup of something vaguely warm. "You could have been their destroyer." But you stopped. That's more than most ever do." She looked at the humans, half-broken, yet hopeful. "How do you survive like this?" she asked. "We don't survive. We endure. There's a difference." That night, she had nightmares. Not of conquest, but of faces. The faces of those she'd killed. 1,000 civilians turned to ash by her orders. She awoke screaming. The enclave stirred, but no one approached her. Only Thomas. "I used to dream like that," he said. "You're not alone." "Don't say that," she whispered. "I don't deserve it." "You do, because you're trying." Word spread that the infamous General Virella was alive, and among humans. Rebel radios lit up. Velari patrols intensified. A bounty was posted. Thomas offered to help her flee to a resistance stronghold in the Colorado mountains. She resisted at first, but knew she had nowhere else to go. They traveled on foot and scavenged transports. On the way, they encountered a dying Velari soldier, left behind by his unit. He looked at Virella with recognition and terror. She approached him slowly. "I was your commander. You betrayed us." "I saved myself." He died before she could say more. Thomas was quiet that night. "You okay?" She didn't answer. Instead, she asked, "What do humans do when they've lost everything?" "We rebuild, or we mourn, or both." "How do you know which one to choose?" "You don't. You just go forward." at an old radio station. They found an engineer trying to broadcast hope, literally. She sent out human music, coded messages, and names of survivors. The Velari bombed her tower hours later. Virella watched as the woman burned, still trying to transmit. Virella knelt beside the wreckage. Your people never stop. Nope, not even when it hurts, Thomas said. They finally reached the mountains, but it wasn't safe. Velari dropships had found them. They were ambushed outside the cave entrance. Virella shoved Thomas behind a boulder and activated her pulse cannon. Still operational from her damaged suit, with brutal precision, she disabled 3 enemies before taking a hit in the shoulder. Yekshil appeared, helmet off, eyes burning with betrayal. You disgrace our kind, Virella. You betray the Dominion for apes. They're more than apes, she snarled. They're alive. You were our blade, our general, and I am still myself, but I choose something different now. They fought, Velari on Velari, strength against experience. Virella moved with rage until she remembered Thomas's words. Mercy is a choice. She disarmed Yekshil. He spat in her face. Finish it. She didn't. Go, she said. Tell the Dominion. I'm not yours anymore. He fled. She collapsed shortly after. Thomas dragged her into the stronghold. Resistance fighters cheered when they saw her. Some called for her arrest. Others recognized her as something else, a weapon-turned-shield. She awoke in a makeshift medical bay. Her armor was gone. Her scars remained. Thomas was beside her. You fought for us. I didn't do it for you, she said weakly. I did it because I couldn't do anything else. Not anymore. That's enough. Resistance leaders met with her, skeptical but desperate. They asked questions. She answered with honesty. Battle plans, supply lines, Velari weaknesses. But she gave more. She offered something no one expected. I want to teach you how to fight like them, but I also want to teach you how to stop this. You think peace is possible? One asked. I don't know, but it has to start somewhere. They let her stay. Days passed. She trained with humans, not as a general, but as one of them. She learned to laugh, to eat food without analyzing its nutritional code, to care. One evening, watching the stars with Thomas, she asked, Do you think they'll ever forgive me? Maybe not, but forgiveness isn't a guarantee. It's a journey. And what about you? Do you forgive me? He looked at her, not as an enemy, but as someone changed. I think I never hated you. I think I always saw who you could be. She didn't know what to say, but she knew what she felt. For the first time in her life, she didn't want to be a general. She wanted to be human, or at least something close. Let me know when you're ready for Section 3, final 6,000 words, with a Velari mount a final attack on Earth. And Virella must choose once and for all who she is and what kind of legacy she will leave behind. The snow in the Colorado mountains turned red by morning. Smoke curled into the clouds like warning fingers. The Velari fleet had returned. All of it. No more surgical strikes. This time, they had come to annihilate Earth completely. Inside the resistance stronghold, chaos reigned. Leaders argued. Civilians panicked. Fighters scrambled. In the command center, Virella stood in silence, her eyes fixed on the incoming fleet's trajectory. There's no escape this time, a human major muttered. They're going to glass the surface. Thomas looked at her. We need a miracle. She didn't answer. Not yet. The Velari Grand War Council had declared her a traitor of the highest order. Her image was broadcast through their channels. General Virella the Fallen, a warning to others, a target for extermination. But to the humans, she had become something more. A teacher, a shield, a symbol. Now, the world she once sought to crush depended on her. Resistance commanders met that evening. The options were few. Evacuation was impossible. Reinforcements non-existent. Virella stood before them, calm and steady. I know how they think. I know what they fear. And I know how to hurt them. You want us to trust you to lead us into battle? A former colonel snapped. No, she replied. I want you to fight beside me. That silenced the room. They had 72 hours before the full fleet entered Earth's atmosphere. Virella worked without sleep. She integrated old Velari code with human defense satellites. She trained troops in anti-grav maneuvers. She repaired a comms array with Thomas, rerouting ancient signals. "You really believe we can win?" he asked. "No," she admitted, "but we can make them bleed." The first wave hit just before dawn. Massive Velari dread ships darkened the skies. Drop pods rained like metal hail. Virella was already airborne, wearing modified Velari armor, stripped of its insignia, now marked with human resistance crest. She led a strike team directly into the enemy's command node on the western ridge. Plasma fire filled the air. "Focus fire on the comms relay," she shouted. "Blind them." Thomas was behind her, sniping targets, breath calm, eyes hard. They moved like they'd done this forever. Elsewhere, resistance forces fought fiercely. Virella's training paid off. Human fighters used cover, misdirection, guerrilla tactics. The Velari were powerful but not prepared for this kind of resistance. Still, the numbers were crushing. For every one they killed, 10 more landed. At noon, Earth's final orbital defense station was destroyed. The sky turned crimson. "Fallback protocols?" a young resistance officer asked. "There's nowhere left to fall back to," Thomas answered grimly. Virella clenched her jaw. "There's one option left." She revealed a final plan, the Scorch Trigger, a buried Velari relic, one of the first devices she'd used during the initial invasion, capable of destabilizing an entire sector's gravitic field. It would overload the Velari fleet's propulsion systems, but it would destroy everything within a 500-kilometer radius. "You'll kill civilians," someone said. "I'll draw them away first," she replied. "Alone." That night, she and Thomas sat outside the bunker, watching the stars disappear behind warships. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "I do. I created this war. I'll end it. You could die. I was dead the moment I gave that first order. This is living." She looked at him. For the first time, no armor, no mask. "You're the first human I truly saw. Not just a creature, but a person. And it changed everything. You changed too." She leaned in and their foreheads touched. "Tell them who I was," she whispered. "Not the monster, the one who tried." "I will." At sunrise, she took a stealth shuttle and flew directly into the heart of the Velari fleet. She sent a signal on an encrypted frequency, her command code. "This is General Virella of the Velari Dominion. I challenge your commander to single combat." Velari warriors paused. Honor duels were sacred in their culture. She was beamed aboard the flagship. Yekshul was waiting. "You disgrace us again," he sneered. "No, I remind you of what we were. Warriors with code, not butchers." They fought under the high banner of Velari law, sword to sword. Virella, wounded and weary, still moved with lethal grace. She defeated Yekshul, but did not kill him. Instead, she spoke to every Velari ship on open channel. "This war is beneath us. The humans are not weak. They are alive, and I would die for them." She activated the Scorch Trigger. Her final words, "Mercy is power. Remember that." A blinding pulse rocked the sky. Dozens of Velari ships blinked out of existence. Others spiraled, broken. The fleet fractured. On Earth, resistance forces looked up in awe. The invasion had stopped. Days passed. Weeks. Velari High Command recalled the remnants of their fleet, fearing rebellion. Peace talks began. Tentative. Fragile. But real. Thomas stood before a gathered human council. "She saved us not with a weapon, but with a choice. Mercy. If we ever build again, let it be in her name." Years later, a memorial stood in the Colorado mountains. Here stood the last general of the Velari Dominion. She came to conquer, but chose to protect. Mercy is power.